To fail where so many other pharma firms have enjoyed such sweet success is bitter, and such a downer in the fight against the coronavirus. But thank goodness we've got more than one vaccine, because CureVac isn't up to scratch. That's the result from an interim analysis based on 134 COVID cases in a study with about 40,000 volunteers in Europe and Latin America.
Germany's CureVac was supposed to be one of the big players in the fight against COVID-19. The European Union had ordered 400 million doses of its vaccine. Optimism was high earlier this year when CureVac CEO Franz-Werner Haas joined in a conference call with EU health officials.
We are planning to have a conditional market approval somewhere in end of May, beginning of June, depending on the data, of course. At the moment, our data read out what we can see is that we can expect a high efficacy there as well, and we are following certainly also with the variant.
Now the bad news. Stage 3 test results have shown an efficacy rate of only 47%, far less than vaccines made by competitors, and under the 50% minimum rate set by the World Health Organization. Stock markets reacted immediately, with CureVac shares plunging at times by almost half, their worst daily performance since the company's August 2020 IPO. Research will go on at CureVac's labs, but for now, the company is unlikely to play a major role in the short-term fight against the virus.
Well, let's see what Chelsea Delaney has to say about this. Chelsea, how did it go so wrong, especially considering how many have led the way?
Yeah, it's really a spectacular rise and fall for CureVac. If you think back to the beginning of the vaccine race, CureVac was one of the most hyped up companies out there. This was the company that the Trump administration tried to convince to move to the U.S. and exclusively give the U.S. their vaccines for €1 billion. It set off a huge row over vaccine rights and who gets those. And in the end, Germany itself, the German government, invested about €300 million into the company and got it to stay here, but there was a lot of interest in this vaccine and it clearly just hasn't panned out. One problem for CureVac is that they started doing their clinical trials later than Pfizer and BioNTech, so most of their trials have happened this year when we've seen the explosion of a lot of variants that have made it more difficult for these vaccines. So that's one reason why their efficacy rate might be lower than that of Pfizer and BioNTech, but at the same time it's just spectacularly lower, and it's not even clear if they would get approval from medicines regulators if they do submit it like they say they are going to. The European Medicines Agency says they want a 50% efficacy rate. This is clearly below that.
The German government doesn't seem to be all that worried about its vaccine drive, seeing this as a setback. But what about the global race to vax the world?
Yeah, so Europe had bet pretty big on this, and they had been expecting over 400 million doses. But they say that they have really a strong pipeline of vaccines now, in part because Pfizer and BioNTech have really stepped up their game and are producing a lot here. So today we heard from the German Health Ministry that this won't really upset the rollout here in Germany, probably throughout Europe, but for the broader world, because this vaccine was likely to be a bit easier to distribute. It doesn't require the deep freeze refrigerators that other vaccines do. So for the global race, this is certainly a bigger disappointment.
Our financial correspondent in Frankfurt, Chelsea Delaney.